Welcome back. So let's talk a bit about diving into painting some of these subdermal maps. So as you can see, I've added eyebrows. And if I just unlock this folder here, we can see that it's just a separate layer on top here. And that's going to come in handy later when I'm painting some other maps. So I want to go in now and start working with some of the subdermal color maps, and I'm going to go start with the one that's pretty universal depending on wherever you work, and it's the subdermal deep. So it's the deepest layer of the skin that has the subcutaneous details. Again, this is very different depending where you work and how the shader module, the skin shader model is set up. So I'm just going to show you the way I do it for personal use and at home, and how I get effects that I like. So there's two ways I can go about creating this map. The first way is I can go into the channel tab here, take this channel, right click on it, and duplicate, and it'll duplicate everything in the layer stack. I've noticed, and I haven't done enough extensive testing to confirm this, but I've noticed that there becomes a little bit of a slowdown with the layers. With the channels when you start building up a lot of channels. You can lock this channel, which I think may help. But again, this is some investigating I need to do further, but I haven't had enough time to do that. So I can do it in here, or I can go into my channels, within the channels in the layer stack, right click on this layer and duplicate it. Which is right. I can copy and paste. Control C, Control V. And it's going to take a second, and we'll duplicate this entire folder. So I'm going to do this method first and see how it goes, and then we may switch to going the channel route. There we go. So I'm going to grab this folder here and rename it. I'm going to call it again, the naming of this is kind of arbitrary at this point. So for me, I know there's a lot of these details that I like, and I don't need to have all these layers. So I'm actually going to merge a lot of them. So I'm going to grab all these projections, like so. And I'm going to merge them together. Because I know this is all kind of what I wanted. I don't want to change any of the base, and I'll just clean up the file a bit more. Like so. And then I'm going to lock this base layer here because we don't need it. Awesome. So from here, I want to start getting more of a blood red tone, and I want to do it on top of everything. I want to do it overall to all the layers within this folder. And this takes a little bit of some experimenting to kind of get the tone that you want. And it also depends on the type of skin that you're going for. I want to kind of go from that pinky red, like so. And then I'm going to take a levels on top of that to bring some of these tones out more, because I want to get a little bit more variation going on in this map. So this stuff can read a bit better. And I'm going to tone back some of the saturation in this original here. And it's okay that these eyebrows are going dark. I didn't really touch upon this before. I'm for this demo and for the final render, I've actually painted in the textures for the eyebrows. I didn't go the hair route because I was very specific in what I wanted for the eyebrows, and I felt that I could get a decent look in textures alone. So what I'm doing is I'm darkening down the eyebrows in the subdermal map, which is a good thing because I don't want too much scatter to seep through the area where there are eyebrows. I actually want to darken that out, which is doing exactly what I want. However, you want to be careful if you do paint hair, such as eyebrows on the face, that you take out some of the saturation around the hair, or else that stuff's going to glow red, and we'll do that in a second. But I just want to show you what the map starts to look like. And as you can see, if you spend a little bit more time in your color maps, making sure that you got nice even coverage, you're going to get a lot of stuff for free when you start making your other maps. And it's all these really nice kind of freckly details and the pore details. This is going to show up really nicely when you start rendering. And in the ear, you get the nice veining with the purples and stuff and the reds. So I'm really happy with this at this point. Again, this is a back and forth process, so when you start rendering it, you may decide, oh, this is not exactly the kind of red I want. I kind of want to go more of a, a warmer olive tone, something like that, something deeper, and keeping the reds just in the eyes, like that. That may yield an interesting result. So just experiment with it when you're doing your own personal projects and see what works best with you. And especially you'll start getting a real feel for it when you start working with different shaders and different renderers and how they calculate subsurface and stuff. So from here I want to take out some of that saturation in the eyebrows. So again, same exact process. Just using layer masks. I'm just taking this down here. And this is going to read much nicer in the render, so you don't get that kind of red halo around the hair. Awesome. So from here, I can go down the route of adding more blush, more kind of reddening and warmth in certain areas, the typical T-zone, the forehead, the nose, the cheeks, the chin, the ears. However, I think a lot of this kind of reddening in the nose especially, you see that a lot in CG characters, and it does add a really nice life to it. However, I caution you guys to be a bit more conservative with it, especially if you're doing skin like female skin. That she isn't sick, isn't out in the cold. So if you do look at a lot of the reference, especially some of the stuff I brought up before, there isn't a lot of really rosy noses or rosy cheeks. Again, this is an artistic decision, so you can decide, I do want that. That does make it look a bit better, and you can add that in. But I do just caution you guys to be very conservative with that look, because it's a very strong look, and sometimes it doesn't get exactly what you want. So I'm going to go back to my original red. And at this point, I'm a little concerned with this kind of neon pink. So let's combat that a bit. So in the subdermal layer, I'm not worrying about any kind of reddening, or sorry, any blue tones that we will be adding in later. I'm not really concerned with that in this map here. I'm going to be doing more of that in the mid scatter that we'll go through in the next demo. But here I'm just worried about getting that kind of red blood detail in the face. So we'll go back to the Ortho UV tab. Start getting more of that red in there. Let's zoom in a bit. So we get away from that neon pink. This feels a lot better. And I'm actually just going to go to the Ortho tab here and just paint directly on the face. So I'm going to select this patch and I'm going to right click and I'm going to lock unselected so I don't paint anything else. I'm going to tone that back. So we're getting some of that out, which is nice. There. So this is going to serve to be a very nice map. And this map is really going to drive a lot of the backscatter color. So this is why I wanted to make sure that the red in the ears is pretty prominent. So when we do get backscatter on the face, it's going to pick up this color specifically. And we do want those deep reds because it gives that really nice look when you start getting it into lighting. So at this point, this is a really good starting point for my subdermal deep. Sometimes, depending on the character, I'll add kind of a noise texture just to get more variation. However, for this kind of female skin, I want to keep it very minimal. And I want to keep it true to that kind of young, youthful, clean skin. And this is going to get me in that direction a lot faster than if I were to add some noise. And as you can see, you do get a little bit of breakup and noise in there anyway. So that's really going to help. So again, if I wanted to, when I'm done with this and export it out, I can select this folder here and then export flattened selected layers. So it'll export everything in this folder, which is nice. So what I mentioned before, I can go this route where I start just building up folders within one channel, or I can go to the channel here and I can duplicate it. So I can duplicate it like so, and then rename this. And then inside the Layers tab, I have what I had before, and I can work from there. So two different methodologies. And then when I select each one of these channels here, it'll switch me back as long as I'm in my channel view. So you can view per channel, stack, layer, or paint, which is a little bit different. And so I typically stay in channel, so I can quickly swap between channels and it'll show me what I'm doing. So anyway, so that's a second way you can build your textures up in terms of organization. Like I said before, I did a test where I had maybe 9 channels with quite a bit of layers, quite a number of layers in each, and I did see a significant slowdown. However, I am working on a Windows build for Mari, and I've always noticed that the Linux versions run much, much better than the Windows. So I haven't had a chance to test it on a Linux platform yet. And I don't suspect there'll be a big issue, especially when the actual version releases. So there we go. This is a good starting point for the subdermal map that we can use. In the next section, I will go through how we go about painting the mid scatter map. Again, this isn't really used in a lot of places, I don't think, at least from my experience. I've begun to use it at home with the Arnold skin shader. I found some really cool results. If you don't use the mid map, what we would do is we basically go back into this subdermal deep and then paint in some of the blue tones if we need it. And also, just a note, this is also the layer we would want to paint in veins, any subcutaneous veins that we may want to get a hint of. But for this female, again, I don't want it to look too I don't want her skin to look old or papery thin or anything like that, so I'm going to stay away from that and leave it as is. So let's jump into the next section where we look at painting some mid-scatter maps.